Welcome back to Fight Network. Cody Saftik here with you. Bellator 178 goes down Friday, April 21st from Uncasville, Connecticut. The night features a pretty solid main card, but if you're into watching prospects, looking for the next potential wave of fighters, I suggest you check out the prelims and you'll be able to catch the man that now joins us on the line. It's former three-time D1 national champion Ed Ruth. Ed, thanks for taking the time today.
No problem.
Now, you're obviously known as a standout wrestler, a fantastic wrestling career, three-time national champion, but now you're taking your third start inside of an MMA cage. At what point do you start to feel more like a fighter, more than just that wrestler making that transition over?
I think I feel more like a fighter as I kind of get deeper into the fights. You know, I feel like once you hit that 10 fight mark, you feel more like a fighter. But I always had like high expectations of that.
Now, obviously, at your level, it's going to be hard to, well, not hard, but it's difficult for anybody, really, to get 10 fights, especially when you're trying to fight at a high level like Bellator. But you're obviously very active all around, coming from that wrestling route, and you compete a lot in jiu-jitsu tournaments. I see that you won a Naga tournament as recently as early March at the blue belt level.
Yeah, you know, because I like to stay busy. I don't ever really like sitting around just kind of waiting just to fight. And, you know, especially since I'm going to be since fighting entails all these other disciplines, I'd rather just put myself out of my comfort zone and kind of just do that, and then come back to fighting and then kind of tie everything together.
And is competitive jiu-jitsu something that you're interested in, or is it just, like you said, something to do to keep active and gain experience?
It's something to do to keep active, but at the same time, you know, I kind of want to be a competitor in everything. I never really saw myself as just a mono athlete. You know, I kind of feel like I am more athletic around the board. You know, as time goes on, you know, I want to prove that to people. You know, I don't want them to see me, oh, he's just a good fighter, he's a good MMA fighter. You know, I want them to see that, oh, he not only does he do MMA, he's also doing jiu-jitsu, he's also boxing, he's also kickboxing. You know, he's actually proving that he's not just somebody who's in the sport just because he can get around some of these rules because some of the rules work in his favor. You know, he's more of an all-around technical, athletic, but you know, I want to control the pace. I want to control the fight. You know, and every time I stepped out there in a wrestling match, you never wanted to wait for the guy to shoot on you, and then you kind of, you know, fight him off. You always wanted to make the match your pace. You know, the only pace, following your own pace. You know, then you're in a better position.
Well, as you talked about, you get a lot of comfort as well coming from the training room, working with high-level guys and working with high-level gyms. Now, when you first made your official announcement that you were going to cross over from wrestling to MMA, you had a lot of high-level gyms that were reaching out to you, wanting your services. I know you spent time in New York. You spent some time down in California. You spent some time in Albuquerque. Most recently, I believe you've been spending some time around AKA in Fresno. So coming into this fight, where do you find yourself spending the majority of your time these days?
Well, I always trained out of Dethrone Fresno, and I'm pretty much there all year round. Every once in a while during the camp, I would go down to Fresno. I mean, I would go down to AKA only if somebody's in camp or somebody I can get my hands on. But I mostly spend most of my time in Fresno getting ready for my fights.
Now, your first two pro fights have been at catchweights of 189 and 192, respectively. I think you came in at 190 for that one. You're supposed to be coming up. Your upcoming fight was scheduled at 185 pounds. It's the first time. Do you want to make that move down to permanently to 185, the middleweight limit, or are you comfortable with these catchweights for the time being?
Yeah, because I mean, like even in college, well, actually in college it was 184, and then when we were wrestling freestyle it was 186. So I've always been hovering around 186, and this my natural weight's only about 200 pounds, so it's an easy weight cut for me. And being a wrestler, you know, we already know how to cut weight, so you know it's never really been an issue.
No, that'd be definitely a big advantage. Also, the advantages of, I mean, coming from that wrestling background is that you're one of the few wrestlers that after college you competed on the world level. So making your second pro fight, you competed over in Italy, and I think for a lot of people it'd be, oh my God, this is an American fighter with just one lone pro fight under his belt, making the trip to Italy, taking on that local Italian guy. But in your case, you've competed internationally. Did you draw experience from that? Do you feel like even though you're only 2-0 at this current stage in your career, you're far more experienced than the average fighter?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like when you leave your own, when you leave your soil and go over to somebody else's backyard, and you know, obviously you're gonna feel some type of adversity, or the air is not gonna feel right to you, but you know, I love doing that. You know, I love putting myself out of my comfort zone. Like I said earlier, And going over there and fighting an Italian in Italy, and then you still win. That just proves to yourself, that proves to me, it helps a lot for my confidence stepping into the ring. I'm rather than just doing it where I'm comfortable all the time, I'm actually making strides to go somewhere else and doing it somewhere else. I still do want to take my time with it because, I'm really enjoying this process. I'm enjoying just the sport in itself, and I enjoy waking up in the morning, going to the gym. I don't care how slow it is. I'm still gonna enjoy it. It's still fun to me, and honestly, I love this sport. I love it to a T, and it could be like the next 2 years, and I'll probably still be happy. I'll probably still have the same enthusiasm I have today.
Well, final question for you. I mean, wrestlers have always traditionally been dominant in MMA, but especially so in Bellator. We're looking at champions, guys like Phil Davis, Michael Chandler. They come from a wrestling background. And even Bellator signed a host of notable D1 champions, All-American guys. Even Tyrell Fortune's also going to be on the card April 21st. They're really bringing in that next wave. It really is an indication of where the future is at for the Bellator promotion. Now that MMA is kind of becoming, a way to make a living for some of these athletes, do you anticipate more and more college athletes to make that transition out of the wrestling ranks, almost pursuing MMA as an option once they finish school?
I do, and then I don't. I feel like you still have your guys that will pave the way for a lot of guys. But I just feel like being a wrestler and being an MMA fighter, you still have guys that I feel like being a wrestler takes one mindset, but then to be an MMA fighter still takes even a little extra more of an edge. Because a lot of guys who wrestle, they get used to that wrestling, that aggression that way. But not a lot of people take kindly to being punched and kicked in the face. It's not something that everybody desires, and it's not that I desire it. But I just like, man, I love this sport. I love this. This is fun, and I don't really see everybody feeling the same way that I do. My hopes, I do hope to see a lot more wrestlers getting into the sport, because it would be nice to have more, just to have more of us in it, because I just feel like, we're built for something like this. We're built for battle. We're built for war, and it would be nice to have a lot more wrestlers kind of coming into it, because it just does more for our sport. It does more for both sports.
I couldn't agree more. I think it's a fantastic opportunity for everybody. And like you said, you're never going to know until you get in there. You definitely learn a lot more in that pro debut of yours where you had to face adversity, where you did get hit clean in the first round. You learn in that moment far more than if you just go 6-0, 7-0 to build your career. That's almost the moment where you realize Ed Ruth's not only just a wrestling prospect. The guy can take a punch and he can come back, and he's a fighting prospect. And that's why we're super excited to see Ed Ruth back in action. You can do so April 21st. It'll be on the Spike TV prelim portion of Bellator 178, but nonetheless, you most definitely need to check it out. Ed, thanks for taking the time once again, and best of luck to you.
Yeah, no problem, man.